We are honoring West Bloomfield Police Department's first woman officer during Women's History Month. Joining us herself is Jean McBride to talk about her experience. How are you, Jean?
Good morning. I'm fine. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you so much for joining us, Jean, making history in the West Bloomfield Police Department as the first female officer sworn in July 13th, 1979. Wow. Can you first just tell us what motivated you to even become an officer in the first place?
Well, first of all, I grew up in West Bloomfield, from second grade forward. Lived next door to a wonderful woman who was a great friend to our family. She was the first woman, or among the first women, to graduate Michigan State's police administration program, and also went to work.
And Jean, picking up where we left off, just talking about your motivation behind becoming a police officer. You were getting into that a little bit, please.
Sure. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened, but I grew up in West Bloomfield next door to a woman who was a dear family friend who had been among the first women to graduate Michigan State's, back then it was the police administration program. And then following that, she was an officer in the Detroit Police Department. So she used to share a lot of those stories. I was always fascinated by it. And I think that was my first nudge into law enforcement.
Nice. So I know it had to have been an interesting journey, right? First woman officer sworn into a police department that was male dominated. Can you just talk about how your fellow officers kind of helped you feel comfortable within that space overall?
I sure can. And indeed, it was a good experience. When I applied, I didn't even realize that there were no women employed yet. So, but that really didn't matter. All I knew is I wanted the job and was so excited to be there and have that opportunity. And truly, it was a great experience. My colleagues were welcoming, helpful for the most part. It really was a good experience, and I've had some lifelong friendships as a result.
Yes, and also, like we said, being the first woman sworn in as an officer at the police department, you already said your fellow officers made you feel welcome, but also, that mean you opened the door for other women to feel comfortable to be there too. Can you just talk about the impact that you feel like you've made since you've actually become an officer, or, now that you're retired, I should say?
Yeah, I think the department learned how much they were lacking in terms of just their facility. For example, there was no women's locker room. I had a locker in with 30-some men. So that was always interesting, but we made it work, and they were very good about it. We had shifts, basically. I had my own shift to go in and change my clothes. And I think also there are situations in police work I found where a woman on the scene has a calming effect when emotions are running high and so forth. And not always the case, and men are also very capable of de-escalating. But I think there were situations where it was helpful to have a woman on the scene. And I think the department learned that, and I know real soon after I left, they hired one or two more women, and I've lost count how many they've had since, but I know I know it's a lot.
And that just goes to show the impact, like we said, that you've had, the influence that you also had, highlighting women that make the difference in the greater West Bloomfield area. And one of the first, or excuse me, the first woman sworn in into the West Bloomfield Police Department, Jean McBride, joining us today to talk about her experience. So also, Jean, why was it, or why is it important to you, or why did you strive to be the first woman, or was that a goal? Like, why was it important to you to be the first woman in the department, personally?
It truly was not necessarily a goal of mine at all. I fell into that part of it, but my focus was more on I had a passion for that industry,
Hmm.
and I was focused on doing the job the best I was able and learning as much as I could, um, and challenging myself, overcoming. Certainly, there were some fears.
Hmm.
I was 23 years old at the time, so I grew a lot maturity wise during that time. Um, yeah, being the first woman really was not in the forefront of my mind. I put
Mm.
that out of my mind. I wanted truly to be seen as just another officer.
Right.
And that's what I was striving for.
Right. After doing something that you love for so long, and like you said, you weren't even necessarily, it wasn't a goal to be the first woman. You just went to be an officer of the law and, serve your local community. But, after doing it for so long, you get to the point of, retirement, where you want to call it quits. Can you just talk about your mentality and your mindset behind slowly getting to the point in your career where you say, I think it's time for me to retire?
um, yeah, I've been retired 5 years. I will say it was a very hard thing to do, to let go of something I had done in
Hmm.
one form or another my entire career.
Right.
I feel very fortunate to have found a career early on that I loved and been able to be in that field, again, in whether in the private or the public sector, my entire career. And I not every day was wonderful, but
Hmm.
um, for the most part, I really enjoyed it, and a lot of people can't say that. I like going to work pretty much every day,
Right.
but you reach a point you're just tired.
You and that's the thing too. Like, I love the difference that you said, because a lot of people just go to work because they have to, and it's a completely different feeling when you're going to work and you enjoy it. It doesn't feel like work whatsoever. You're just doing what you love to do to contribute to society. Ultimately, that's why I asked you the question, because I understand
Yeah.
when you usually have to retire from something that you're used to for the majority, if not all of your life. It just takes you to a completely different space, different mentality, and different routine, and things of that nature. So, thank you for explaining that for us. What do you see for the future of women in law enforcement, specifically in West Bloomfield? What's your vision?
um, I think the door's wide open. Um, there are so many more areas of expertise in law enforcement now than there were before. And an example of that would be computer forensics.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't exist when I was there. We didn't have computers. I mean, to some degree we did, but we didn't have them in our car.
Mm.
Um, we didn't have the forensic tools that exist today.
Right.
Um, so there are various directions you can go after serving your time and learning the job on the road. A lot of different areas to go into and things do with that experience than there used to be. So I think it's a great field for women. Um, I think we've blazed the trail, and it's no longer unusual
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
see a woman in a police car. It's become commonplace now, which makes me really happy, and I think that benefits the community tremendously.
And that's good that you feel that way, and after you have that effect. Any last words before we let you go, Jean?
Uh, and no, just other than West Bloomfield's a great community. Um, I I'm not living there anymore, but I have nothing but warm feelings for the community and for my time spent working there. And you have a tremendously progressive police department um, that has come through the leadership of Chief Patton, who actually started while I was there back in the day. So he's made tremendous strides, and I'm real proud of him and proud of the department, and glad I was a part of it.
Absolutely. And we are so glad that you spent time to talk to us too today. Jean McBride, the first woman sworn into the West Bloomfield Police Department, July 13th, 1979. Thank you again for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin.